Welcome back. Right now we're going to focus on your health and those symptoms that you should absolutely not ignore. Sometimes it's hard to know which ones are passing and which ones are a sign that you need to go see a physician. Well, during the pandemic, women especially missed a lot of those routine appointments. And today we're going to talk about women's health and those symptoms you should not ignore with Dr. Nkechi Azie and Nurse Barbara Dehn. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today.
Christine, it's a delight to be here with my friend, Dr. Azie, on behalf of Scynexis to talk about women's health.
It's great having you both here. Nurse Barbara, let's start with you. Tell me more about how women have skipped preventative exams and why it's so important that we don't do that.
Well, during the pandemic, it's understandable that women skip those annual physicals, their pap smears, their mammograms, but they also skipped seeing a provider for those very irritating vaginal infections that never seem to go away. But ladies, let's change that because May is Women's Health Awareness Month, so now's the time to focus on your own health care.
And Nurse Barb, what about those symptoms and those issues that we should not ignore? As I mentioned in the intro, sometimes it's hard to know which ones we can just kind of move on with and others that show that there's a bigger sign that something could be wrong.
Right, as women, we're so used to putting everybody else first and ignoring a lot of our symptoms like itching and burning and discomfort. But when we ignore them, they just tend to get worse. Here's the thing, about 7 out of 10 of all of us, 70% have had a vaginal yeast infection sometime during our lives, and half of us have had multiple episodes. But don't let fear or embarrassment cause you to ignore these symptoms. Do talk to a healthcare provider because there's been some new advancements in treatment.
And doctor, why is it so important that we see a physician for some of these issues and infections? In your opinion, what could go wrong if we don't?
Hi, Christine. These infections usually will start off mild, and if you ignore them, they just get worse, and then they're even more difficult to treat without seeing your physician and getting the right medication for it. And you can understand in the last 20 years, the women may have gotten discouraged and disappointed several times because there was just one type of medicine to treat these infections. Whether you're picking it over the counter or your physician is giving you a prescription. And therefore, for those of us that the medication didn't work for, it was more of I give up and they sit at home. However, there is hope on the horizon as some new novel therapeutics have been recently approved.
And Dr. Azie, tell me more about the hope that is on the horizon for this and some of the recent treatments that are available.
So there is a medication called Brexafemme that is the first in a new class of antifungals. These are medications that treat fungal infections that has been approved for the treatment of vaginal yeast infection. Now, this medicine is not for everybody, particularly women who are pregnant, but it does kill the yeast and it's a one-day treatment. So please, if you're having these symptoms of itching, burning, and pain, please do call your healthcare provider and see if it is appropriate for you, because there is something different that you can use.
And where can we go for more information, safety information about this treatment, as well as more about what we talked about today, those symptoms that we should not ignore and not skipping those preventative visits to the doctor?
So Christine, women can go to yourvhealth.com and check it out. V is for vagina, so yourvhealth.com for more information. And I want to thank you, Dr. Azie, for devoting your life to treating infectious disease.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm really delighted to be telling my fellow women about this new option for treating vaginal yeast infections. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Azie and Nurse Barb, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all about women's health and much more. We'll be back here on Mountain Connections right after this.